The news was a whisper at first, a single cryptic social media post that nobody took seriously. A screenshot of a conversation, a series of text messages from an unknown woman's phone, and a claim that would, within hours, detonate a bomb beneath the fragile peace Wang Yibo and Xiao Zhan had built. The text messages were short, ambiguous, but in the context of the entertainment world's most talked-about couple, they were a venomous poison. I can't wait for our little secret rendezvous tomorrow. Thinking about you, thinking about our project. I can't wait to see you alone to talk about it. Just so you know, our secret is safe with me. I'll be there soon. The conversation was between the woman and someone whose contact name was simply saved as XE. The woman was a well-known actress, a rising star who had recently been cast as Xiao Zhan's co-lead in his next film, a quiet, introspective drama. The scandal, once a whisper, became a deafening roar. The headlines screamed, "A woman's secret texts. Is this the proof of Xiao Zhan's affair?" The internet exploded with theories and accusations. Fans, still healing from the last scandal, were divided. Some furiously defended Zhan, calling the texts a fabrication, while others, seeing the evidence, felt a profound, gut-wrenching sense of betrayal. The public loved their story, but they were also ready to see it all come crashing down. Wang Yibo saw it all unfold from the quiet solitude of his dance studio. He was in the middle of a rigorous rehearsal, his body moving with its usual practiced grace, but his mind was 1,000 miles away. He had seen the trending hashtags, the screenshots. He had tried to ignore them, to believe with every fiber of his being that it was all a lie. He had promised himself he would never again let a rumor shatter his trust. But this was different. The texts were specific, the timing was uncanny, and the contact name, XE, was a cruel, perfectly crafted dagger. He knew he was being tested, and the test was far harder than he had ever anticipated. He finished his rehearsal, his movements becoming more and more mechanical. He was a professional, but his heart was not in it. He walked off the studio floor, not to his car, but to the small, private room at the back of the building. He didn't want to go home. He didn't want to see Zhan until he knew the truth. He sat there for hours, his phone a constant, buzzing source of torment as it streamed headlines and public outrage. He wanted to call Zhan, to demand an explanation, but the fear of what he might hear paralyzed him. The memory of his own past mistake, the secret meeting that had nearly cost them everything, was a bitter, haunting poison. He had asked Zhan for his trust, but now, faced with a rumor that seemed so real, he found his own faith wavering. He felt a profound sense of shame, of failing the very test he had sworn to pass. It was late when he finally went home. The apartment was dark and silent. He walked in, his heart a lump of lead in his chest. Zhan was sitting on the couch, the only light coming from the television screen. He looked up as Yibo walked in, and the expression on his face was not one of anger, but of a quiet, weary pain. "I know you saw it," Zhan said, his voice soft, almost apologetic. "I saw it," Yibo replied, his voice a flat, emotionless line. He walked over to the couch, the air between them thick with unspoken accusations. He sat down, not beside Zhan, but on the armchair across from him, creating a physical distance that mirrored the emotional chasm that had opened between them. "I want to hear it from you, Zhan. The truth." Zhan looked at him, his eyes filled with a heartbreaking mixture of love and hurt. "You didn't ask me." The simple, quiet statement was a profound blow. Yibo had not asked. He had not picked up the phone. He had let the rumor fester, and he had believed it, at least in part. He had failed the most important test of all. "I'm sorry," Yibo whispered. The words a raw, painful confession. "I'm sorry. I was scared. The messages, they felt so real." Zhan finally stood, his face a mask of profound sorrow. "They were real, Yibo. The messages are real." The words were a physical blow. Yibo flinched, his head reeling. Then the rumor is true?" "No," Zhan said, shaking his head. "The rumor is a lie. The messages are from my phone, but they're not to my co-star. They're to my mom." He held up his phone, and on the screen, Yibo could see the contact name of Zhan's mother. The messages were from her, sent to Zhan. I don't understand," Yibo stammered. The texts are real, Zhan explained, his voice a raw mix of love and frustration. My mother and I were trying to surprise my grandfather for his 90th birthday. He has a rare health condition, and there's a specific rare herb that only grows in one part of the country that he needed. My co-star, her mother's family, is from that region. We've been working with her to get the herb in secret so we could give it to him as a gift. The texts are just my mother and me coordinating the plan. The co-star, the woman in the rumor, Iba asked, his mind reeling. The woman in the rumor is a family friend, a colleague, nothing more. My mother was the one who was messaging her. I just forwarded a couple of texts to her. The texts they found were from my phone, but they were from my mom to me. Our little secret rendezvous was about a surprise trip to see my grandpa. See You Alone was about us having a private conversation about the gift. The rumor, it was just a sick, twisted interpretation of something so beautiful. The silence that followed was a heavy, suffocating thing, but this time it was filled with shame and a profound, soul-deep relief. The truth was not a headline. It was a love story, a family story, a story of quiet care and compassion. Iba had been so quick to believe the worst, so quick to let a rumor shatter his faith. He had failed. He had not believed in the man he loved. He had not picked up the phone. He had not asked. The trust, once shattered, was now being rebuilt, not by a grand gesture, but by a quiet, heartbreaking conversation that revealed the truth behind the headlines. The scandal was a lie, but Iba's failure to trust was the real, mind-blowing truth. He looked at Zhan, his eyes filled with a profound, tearful remorse. He had been given a second chance, and he had almost thrown it all away. He stood up, walked over to Zhan, and pulled him into a fierce, wordless embrace, a silent promise to never again let a lie come between them. Their love was not just a public romance. It was a private, unshakable sanctuary, and from now on, Iba knew he would protect it with all his might. The raw truth of the matter hung in the air, a silent, painful admission. Zhan's gentle revelation that the affair was a fabrication and the texts were from his mother about a rare herb for his ailing grandfather had shattered the public's illusion and Iba's quiet doubt. The shame was palpable in the room, but it was quickly replaced by an immense, soul-deep relief. Iba had almost failed the most important test of all. He had almost let a lie come between them. The two stood in the quiet of their apartment, the world's chaos a distant, buzzing noise, their bond rebuilt and made stronger by the harrowing trial. Now, they had to face the public. Their managers, who had been in a state of controlled panic, were given the truth, and they knew it was an opportunity, not a liability. A press conference was scheduled for the next day, a decision made not for damage control, but for the purpose of complete, unvarnished honesty. The goal was to tell the full, human story behind the headlines. The day of the press conference felt like the calm before a storm. Iba stood in the wings, watching as Zhan walked out onto the stage. He was not alone. By his side stood the actress from the scandal, a brave woman who had agreed to help him set the record straight. The media was a sea of flashing cameras and hushed whispers, and the tension was thick enough to cut. Zhan began to speak, his voice calm and clear as he addressed the wild rumors. He explained the truth behind the text messages, using simple, heartfelt language. He told them about his grandfather, a man he cherished, and about his rare illness. He told them how his mother had reached out to a family friend, a woman he was now co-starring with, who had a connection to the one place in the world where the necessary herb could be found. He didn't just deny the rumor. He gave them a story of love, family, and desperation. He then handed the microphone to the actress. Her voice, usually so vibrant and full of life, was now soft and respectful. I know my name has been dragged through the mud for the past few days. I know people have said terrible things, but I want to tell you all something. The truth is I was simply helping a friend get something precious for a loved one, and I would do it again in a heartbeat. Her words were raw, honest, and completely sincere. She then showed the press a photo on her phone of her elderly mother and Zhan's mother smiling together, a tangible proof of their family connection. The mind-blowing scene was not the revelation itself, but the public's reaction to it. The journalists who had been so quick to condemn were now humbled. The shame of their quick judgment was palpable. The internet, a place of vicious speculation, now became a place of profound apology and admiration. The scandal was no longer a story of betrayal, but a story of quiet love, family, and compassion. The gossip had turned into a heartwarming legend. The public had been given a sensational headline, but what they had received was a beautiful truth, and they were forever changed by it. The truth had set them free. The day after the press conference, the world had undergone a profound shift. The headlines no longer screamed about betrayal. They whispered in awe about truth, integrity, and a love that was stronger than any rumor. Xiao and Zhan, once trapped in a cycle of speculation and discretion, were now hailed as a new kind of power couple, a symbol of quiet strength and purpose. The scandal that was meant to destroy them had, in a mind-blowing turn of events, cemented their legacy. The impact on their careers was immediate and monumental. Companies that had dropped Xiao in a panic were now scrambling to re-sign him. But he and Zhan were no longer playing by the old rules. They had been tested and had chosen a higher path, and now they had the power to make demands. They began to turn down endorsement deals from brands that didn't align with their values and sought out projects that had a deeper, more meaningful message. The phone calls were relentless, not just from agents and producers, but from philanthropists and charities eager to partner with them. Their public image was no longer just about their looks or their talent. It was about their character. Their newfound freedom was a quiet, exhilarating kind of triumph. They could do something as simple as walk to a small, local cafe without the need for disguises or the fear of being seen. One crisp morning, they did just that. They sat by a sunlit window, sipping coffee and talking, their hands clasped together on the table for all the world to see. A young fan, who recognized them, approached with a nervous, tearful smile. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling. "Thank you for being brave. You've given me hope." It was a simple, heartfelt moment that was more meaningful than any award or public accolade they had ever received. They knew then that they had changed the narrative not just for themselves, but for countless others. They had shown the world that true power lies not in fame, but in purpose. Now, with a new kind of power and a new public purpose, what will they do next? Will they use their platform to focus on expanding their philanthropic efforts? Or will they embark on a new collaborative project that uses their creative talents to tell a powerful story?